The U.S. Supreme Court is declining to block a new Texas abortion law, which bans nearly all abortions once a fetal heartbeat can be detected, typically at 6 weeks of pregnancy. Joining us now to discuss this ruling and what it means for future access to abortion nationwide is Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School and author of Guilt by Accusation, Dershowitz. And joining us also, attorney and Turning Point USA contributor, Erin Elmore. Professor, two things that struck me about this. Number one, the court said it was not ruling on the constitutionality of it, so it looks like it may be coming back at some form. And two, it allows private citizens to kind of enforce this by suing individuals who are contributing, aiding and abetting in an abortion. So what should we be looking at? What's important to know about this?
Well, I think it's so unconstitutional. I don't even know where to begin. The idea of giving individuals the right to enforce the law. What if Texas next passed a law saying that anybody had the right to prevent gay marriage? If any gay people get married, you can sue them and anybody who facilitated the gay marriage and collect $10,000. Or any black person who wants to vote, a white person can sue them. This mechanism is
let me just stay focused, Professor, on the legal issues at hand instead of your opinion as far as how it should come out. The issues that could go back to the court.
I never tell you how it should come out. I always tell you I think it will come out. I think that even conservative justices, certainly Roberts and certainly I think Kavanaugh, will say that the mechanism that Texas has selected, forgetting about abortion, the mechanism that Texas has selected, allowing individual Budinskis, individual busybodies to say, we don't like what's going on in an abortion clinic. We have nothing to do with it. We don't know the people. We have no knowledge of it, is exactly the same as if two gay people were getting married and but they say, we don't like gay marriage. And so we're going to interfere. So I think the Supreme Court will strike down that mechanism as in violation of the constitutional obligation of government to enforce the law and not to turn it over to surrogate busybodies.
Okay, let me get to Erin. Your thoughts on any of the above, Erin?
Well, Mr. Dershowitz is my legal mentor and inspiration, so I'm going to let him be the legal heavy on this. But from a my body, my choice perspective, the left sure doesn't care unless it's convenient for them. What about our servicemen and women who are being forced to get a vaccine or be dishonorably discharged? What happened to their body? Their choice. What about our frontline healthcare workers that are being forced to be vaccinated or get fired? Their body, their choice. These people that want to kill our children, yet our children, my child, who I choose to give birth to, has to wear a mask in school.
Erin, I hate to interrupt you. There are a lot of people that are truly in favor of this kind of law, of a heartbeat law. Mississippi has one that's going to be 15 weeks. And if you don't mind, I just wanted to get your opinion on whether this is a good thing for those people who are pro-life, that per state, we may be seeing the tide turning and Roe v. Wade overturned, maybe down the road specifically, we don't know. But are you pleased that this looks like a state law, at least for the moment, that will essentially outlaw abortions?
So this is a states' rights issue for sure. We've made that abundantly clear. The issue is that the Supreme Court of the United States is not the legislative branch. They are the judicial branch. They interpret the law. So whether or not it's going to be unconstitutional is to be ascertained by the court at a later date. As of right now, it's still standing law, and every state will in fact be different. Every law will be interpreted differently state by state. And unless our legislators in Washington want to make substantial changes to abortion law, they're stuck with this for now. Moreover, we already determined that it's a states' rights issue. We have to really separate our powers here. This is not the executive branch we're talking about. We are talking about the judicial branch. Some states have very lax abortion laws. But as of right now, the Texas issue stands. But when we talk about the Constitution, in air quotes here, abortion wasn't in the Constitution. So we go back to Article 1, and that's the major issue here.
Yeah, and in fact, abortion is not specifically, Professor, in the Constitution. So what is the rationale behind Roe v. Wade that says it is a constitutional right of a woman?
First of all, on Erin's observation, nobody's ever told me that pregnancy is contagious and that somebody can catch pregnancy from somebody else. Whereas COVID is contagious. There's an enormous difference between masking regulations and between abortion regulations. Abortion regulations only involve the woman, the doctor, the family, the priest, the rabbi, and if you believe that there's a fetus that's alive, that. But masking regulation involves me and everybody else. The right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose, and the right for you to breathe on me ends at my nostrils. And you have no constitutional right to breathe on me. As far as abortion is concerned, many of us were critical of Roe versus Wade when it was decided almost 50 years ago on the reasoning, but some were also critical of Brown versus Board of Education. When you have a decision that's almost 50 years old, or in the Brown case, 70 years old, you don't easily overrule it. And Texas is simply trying to overrule Roe versus Wade. We need stare decisis, particularly for conservatives. Conservatives should be supportive of stand by prior decisions. Don't radically change the law just because you have a temporary majority in the Supreme Court. So I do predict the Supreme Court will strike down the Texas law. They may not do it right away. They may wait until the next case, which is argued in the fall, but the Texas law will not survive.
Okay. We'll leave it there. There's plenty to talk about. I'm sure we will between now and then. Thank you, Alan Dershowitz and Erin Elmore. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.